Hey, what's up guys? Rolling Wolf here. It's been a little while since my last video, so I figured I'd go ahead and get one out today. And I'm going to be speaking a little bit about EKSO, EKSO, and I've been playing this one for the last about 10 days or so. And I've gotten quite a few really good trades out of this, and I think there's some pretty good lessons here too. And so I'll be speaking about a couple of the trades here and getting into a swing trade that I've had on here, dip buying morning panics, interpreting news, and managing a position, risk reward, all that good stuff. So we'll get right into it for you. But quickly, these positions here were from today, and I actually day traded EKSO today, and I've day traded it a couple times at this point, along with a overriding swing trade that I've had going on. And I've never really had success swing trading just because patience-wise, I get impatient. You know, if there's any sort of day that I don't like the action, I'm pretty quick to pull the plug. But on this one, I had a very specific plan, and I've been sticking to it so far, and it's been a great swing trade. Right here at today's positions, I also have some shares in a very small E-Trade account that I have that I'm trying to grow. And this was an overnight play from Friday, which I'm still holding tonight. I sold some into the spike this morning into the threes, and I'm holding some. And then on the bottom is what's left of my swing trade at Schwab. I have 15,000 shares left. And as you can see, I'm up about 20K on these remaining 15,000 shares. I had another 5 or 10,000 shares as well that I've locked profits. I've already locked up profits with. So it's looking pretty damn good so far. And I'm going to take this as far as I can, as far as my patience will allow me to, and as far as the chart will allow me to. But we'll start with kind of the catalyst for all of this. And catalysts are very important. And not necessarily what you think of it, but what the price of the stock does. And in this case, however, the news, at least to the best of my knowledge, was a good catalyst. And I'll actually get right to the story quickly. This news came out on the 10th, which was a Friday, not this past Friday, but the one before, on this day right here, this first green day. And you can see there was quite a bit of resistance here for the last several months. In the 130s and 140s, it was having a really difficult time getting above that. But as you can see, this news gapped up right to 130, just about to resistance after this news, and ended the day quite strong, though not up a lot. But this was the first day where I was taking some pretty sizable positions, and it was due to the news. And it wasn't a PR that they released. It was actually, I think, Reuters and Seeking Alpha and a couple of the other Yahoo Finance all released this story. Let me see here. And basically, they mentioned that Ford and EKSO have teamed up to help their workers avoid injury. And they basically have this vest that helps them, whatever, not important. All that was important to me was that Ford was mentioned in this article and that it seemed to be legit. It wasn't just a rumor. If you go on YouTube, they also have some promo video showing this assembly line worker using their vest. Essentially, they're trying it out at a couple of their facilities, and now they're expanding to some other ones. Point being, there's no deal in place yet, but it looks like there may be one in the future. And to me, this seemed like a pretty decent long-term catalyst as opposed to just a day or two. And this is kind of what I formed my thesis upon because it's such a crappy company. And you can go through the chart. They've done financings. Their fundamentals are terrible. But to me, this is the kind of news where you have a dollar stock linked with a big company like Ford, and now there will be anticipation of a deal. And I think that's what this move's all about. And you'll see, I believe people are taking longer term positions in this, hoping to capitalize on a deal with Ford. And if they do happen to have a deal with Ford and they order thousands of these vests or whatever, then that's big time news. So basically, whenever I see a dollar stock that's legitimately linked with a big company like that and the possibility for serious amount of revenue, I pay attention. So we'll get into the chart here. Let's get back to the charts quickly. Let's see here. So if you go to the 5-minute chart, actually, you know what? I'll just pull this up quickly for you. I have the actual entries from day 2, which is this day. I didn't save them on day 1, but I do have a rough idea. And so let's see. So this is day 1. This is the first day where that news was released, and I was playing it. Basically, my idea was to take a sizable swing position here, day 1, which was a Friday, thinking that there's a possibility that the news will circulate this weekend, that particular weekend, since it wasn't a PR. People will be wondering why was this up, and the news would spread over the weekend. So I actually started in pre-market on a dip. I got 5K shares long. This is at Schwab, and you can see it spiked, but not too high. It spiked to about 150 or so, and then pulled back. I got in, and the lowest it got that day was actually the high 120s. And then it was just steadily grinding up all day. This is a 5-minute chart, by the way. So this is the kind of action I like when I'm looking for an overnight hold. And it was actually the kind of action I really liked, considering my thesis and how I wanted to structure this trade and swing it. So I started with 5 as the day progressed, and you can't see it from the chart, but watching the level 2, there were a lot of buyers. They were soaking up a lot of sellers. There was quite a lot of selling going on this day. And it steadily just grinded up a penny at a time, not much, which I also liked. I liked that it didn't just go parabolic right out the gate. So I just kind of accumulated some shares towards the afternoon. And when I saw this perk up, and I don't know if it shows down here. Yep, you can see the perk up in volume here. And I took another 5K shares. So I had 15,000 at a 140 average or something like that. And it popped into after hours. Perfect setup for overnight. And perfect setup for my swing trade that I was planning on. So you can see here my entries here at Schwab. At IB, I took basically an identical entry and another 15,000 shares at IB. So we get into the next day, and this was a big spike up to 260 first thing in the morning, basically. And it's not too important. What the lesson from this chart, all I want you to see is these green and red arrows are my exact entries and exits from day 2 of this move at Interactive Brokers, which I had 15,000 shares overnight. And you can see the morning spike up to the 230s or so, pulled back to 170, and I actually offloaded some shares pre-market just in case in the 2s here. And then I actually added a little bit on the dip to get my share count back up, and I added some more on this dip back to the pre-market lows. And basically what's pretty amazing, if you look at this and several other charts, I started doing this actually. I just started screenshotting all my charts at the end of the day so I can review my entries and exits, not just the overall number and P&L at the end of the day. But you can see I added some here at the bottom of this dip, and then it ripped from 170 to 260. And whenever I get a good move and something that I'm anticipating, I sell into strength. And that's what keeps me patient. That's what allows me to take such small losses. and it's what allows me to take the meat of most moves. If you look here, I sold at 2. I sold here around 235, 240, and I sold some dead top basically at 260, high 250s. And the result of this is that basically I took about 50% of this spike. I think that's what it ended up being at the end of the day. And I was left with a couple shares, I think 1,000 shares at this point from this particular trade at IB. And these were my last shares. It was a very small amount, and I just sold them just in case. But you can see after that, we get this kind of consolidation. I ended up taking more shares. The price action was strong. The chart was still intact. I took some more shares here. And the reason for that, I believe, was volume. If I go back down, more or less. But I took some shares here at a low once again. You do not see buys at the top of any of these green spikes. And of course, it's a no-brainer. You don't want to buy at the top, but when it's happening in real time, the instinct is to chase. And you don't want to miss out on the move. Here's a 2 break, you want to get in on the 2 break. Pre-market break, you want to get in on the pre-market break, and which can work sometimes, but what I like to do is buy dips, and I like dip buying panics. But if I'm going to take an entry intraday on any chart, I want to be getting in on any sort of dip, and not just any sort of dip, but preferably something along some sort of trend line, or a level of support. So you can see here, buy, sells into spikes, buy at what I believed was a low, which I was right, and I was actually pretty patient with the rest of these shares. And the only reason for that was the price action. It was strong. There was clear support at every level, and that's just kind of what I want you to take out of this chart. Is it's not the opposite. You don't see green at the top of spikes and red at the bottom of spikes. That happens to a lot of people, and this is kind of how I trade. If you look at any of my trades, I'm going to start doing these a little more often, but I try to find bottoms, I try to find levels of support, and buy there, as opposed to the opposite, and where you're chasing, and then the stock comes back down, and you get shaken out here, and you're selling here, and then it pops, and you're buying. Like, it's completely the opposite of what you should be doing, obviously. But that was day 1 and day 2 of EKSO, and we'll get into one more from today. Let's see here. And so let's go to today, a 5-minute chart of today. You can see this morning, we've got this huge drop right out the gate. This is market open, this candle right here. And obviously I'm in from the 140s at Schwab, so I'm sitting pretty here. But obviously this isn't what I wanted, but it actually worked out really nicely. I got a sweet dip buy today, and I got a day trade out of this along with my swing trades at Interactive Brokers, and I made about $1,700 or so just from this dip buy. But what we had is the market opened and you had this huge dip. Let me go to the 1-minute chart even so you can see it a little bit better. So we have this huge dip in the morning, and hold on, here we go. It's a lot of 1-minute candles here. All right, so this is the first minute of the day, and it was actually pushing its previous high from the second day spike, which ultimately got rejected. But it was pushing this high here at 261, and it was pushing it pre-market. So it seemed pretty strong to me, looked poised for a breakout. But instead, we got this huge drop down at 2 in literally 5 seconds. I mean, the 1-minute candle doesn't even do it justice. It just tanked right out the gate and right down to 2. And for me, this is one of my favorite patterns, and it's dip buying a morning panic. And in this case, it was stops being taken out, and this is another reason I don't use stop losses. Had I put a stop loss anywhere in the 2s on my 15,000 shares at Schwab, well, it was actually 17,000 this morning. I did sell some today, but it would have been taken out, and I would have been stopped out for still a decent gain, but nothing to what I was looking for, which was this breakout over this day high of day 2. And hopefully, if the chart allows, once again, I'll be able to get this in the around 450 possibly, sell some shares. That's what I'm hoping. But back to this chart today, and the drop was so fast, I wanted to dip buy it, but I was just not quick enough to get it anywhere in the lower 2s. But I did get a good buy-in, I think 3,000 or 4,000 shares at around $2.30, $2.30, and then immediately it just, when it became apparent to everyone that it was stops being taken out and it was a dip buy, you see what happens. It got bought up and pretty quickly ramped up and broke high a day and broke out over day 2, which is down here, which broke out over day 2's high. And we had a sweet run and morning spike all the way to 310. Now on these shares, since I did buy in a little higher, and I was just looking for a nice dip buy, I sold right into the spike. And you can see my sells here. I got some in the 280s, 290s, 270s, and 280s, and that was it. Quick 1,700 to start the day, and a great dip buy. And people ask me why I didn't get scared out, and when you've seen it enough times, you realize this is a dip buy. It's a morning panic taking out stops and nothing more. At least for me, after watching so many days of action on here, it was probably attacked by shorts quickly, and then took stops out. And the other thing it did was put the stock under SSR for the day, which actually helped my cause. But that's a good morning dip buy here. Obviously, you had to be really, really quick, and I wasn't even quick enough. I would have loved to get some in the low 2s, but I didn't. What else? I did buy some more throughout the day. Not great buys. This was kind of a FOMO chase up here. Tiny position because I knew I wanted to average down somewhere more in the 280s or so, which I did. I ended up with a couple thousand shares and dished them off, no big deal. But I am still holding quite a few shares at Schwab. I am up quite a bit, and I'm sticking to my plan on that. I sold all of my IB basically into day 2 of this spike on the overnight. And then on this day on Friday, it was closing really strong. If you look at the 5-minute chart, 2 days, it was a great chart on Friday. We had the morning spike up towards resistance, and then tried again, kind of grinded up, and popped into after hours. So that's why I took a position in E-Trade as well on Friday for my small account. But it's been a great trade so far, and like I said, entry and exit wise, you always want to be buying dips. If you're trying to go long, you don't want to be buying strength. Rarely do I buy strength, and if I do, I take small size and I'm ready to cut. But I buy weakness. That's what I do. I buy charts when they've come down and consolidated, preferably holding some sort of trend. And as long as the stock's in an uptrend, you're good to go. So anyways, there's so much more to this trade and to the swing trade, but I just don't have too much more time to get into it. So sorry for the delay in the videos. I will be getting more out. I also had a big week 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when the shippers were running and the Chinese stocks were running. So I've already broken it down into like 10 different lessons. So I'm going to do a bunch of lessons from that week. Let me see. Yes, it's this week. And I made about $80,000 a couple weeks ago playing the shippers, playing some Chinese stocks with sector momentum. And that week I literally went through basically my whole repertoire of trading, long and short, and it was just a great week. So I will be doing some recaps from that, and I'm hoping to get some more videos out here in the future. Just been so busy. And what else? One last thing. I did a interview with the Steady Trade podcast, and if you haven't caught it, I'll put a link to that as well. But there's some good info for beginners there, I think, and I speak a lot about the beginning stages of my trading career and how I got over the BDT rule, and a bunch of other good stuff. It's really good, so I would definitely check that out. There are 2 parts of it. It's like an hour and a half or something or longer, so I'll post a link to that, and definitely check that out. Leave a comment if you'd like with any requests, and I'll try to keep a list and kind of get to everyone. But that's it, guys. You guys have a good one, and we'll see you soon.